Well, hello everybody, and welcome out. We are going to have a lot of fun in this course. My name is Dr. Tony Albright, and I am your professor for Veterans Voices, which is Social Sciences 134W. The W in this case stands for a writing intensive course. Um, and so I want you all to expect to write. Don't let that scare you off because the writing that we do is focused primarily on idea generation. So you don't have to have perfect grammar. You don't have to have perfect spelling. What we're focused on here is to make sure that the ideas are coming out and they're coming across in a clear and recognizable way. All right. So the first video that I wanted to show you for the class is actually on the syllabus. So I'll go ahead and share that document with you. So we're going over the syllabus. This is kind of a stripped down version. It's a little more Spartan than I would normally create one. But it is important that you all take a look at this and know sort of what we're going to be doing. In this course, you will be using academic writing to understand and appreciate the diverse worldviews, priorities, and values of U.S. military veterans. I want you to know coming in that this is not a homogenous group. All right. They are as diverse as you can possibly be in a group of individuals. But there are some things that will help you if you're working with veterans, if you're aware of those things. And we're going to be highlighting some of those things as we go along. As I've said, the W represents that this is a writing course. It will integrate writing discussions and activities in order to enhance your study of social sciences and veteran studies. Um, the idea is for you to submit 4,000 plus words of original written work across several assignments with ongoing planning, drafting, and revisions. And for me to give you feedback so that you can make improvements on that work. Um, if you decide to improve an assignment, I will certainly consider that for a higher grade for that assignment. So do think about how you would like to use your time in the class. If you feel like going from a B to an A on a given paper is going to impact you greatly, then I would recommend maybe revising that assignment. If, for example, you've got A's on most everything and you feel like that one B paper isn't going to be a big hindrance to your course, I would recommend just going ahead and you know uh, giving yourself some time. We have three required texts for the course. I have provided these all as PDFs in the course materials area. Um, so there is in your um, Canvas site, your Canvas area, there is a folder that has these three PDFs in them. That first one, Sebastian Junger's Tribe on Homecoming and Belonging. Sebastian Junger is a journalist who was embedded with soldiers during the GWAT era. Um, Next, we have Jason Higgins' Prisoners After War. Prisoners After War is uh, a narrative about formerly incarcerated veterans or currently incarcerated veterans and sort of the systemic problems that they face. And the third, this course PDF of collected veteran writing, that is a PDF that I have assembled in order to give you some enrichment in the course. Um, it consists of art and architecture and poetry and prose, and it's intended to give you an idea of the breadth of veteran writing and veteran voices that you may run into as you undertake your own work. So moving along, I do have listed some cultural touchstones. What do I mean by cultural touchstones? These are works that you should know in order to enrich your understanding of a lot of the references that are made in veteran studies. Um, these are texts that really you should know in any academic environment as some of the basic ones that are fundamental to an understanding of the English language. But I would say that these ones in particular, again, they're not required texts, but these are stories that you should know. Does that mean you need to go out and buy all of these books? It does not, right? Um, if you have a chance, go and see a Henry the Fourth or Edward the Second play, or see what you can. Henry the Fifth is a good one to go see. The Greek tragedy of Ajax. It's almost never mounted as a production, but it is a very short play by Sophocles. And it covers right in the very beginning. If you read nothing else other than the very beginning, it covers the period when Ajax returns home and is really suffering with the ravages of war on his mental health. Um, and it's a decidedly impactful and pointed exploration for the time period. Now, my thanks to Chris Nolan, he has made sure that most of you are aware of the Odyssey now by Homer. I will caution you that Mr. Nolan's telling is not completely accurate to the book, so I would encourage you to find at least a Reddit that talks about the different ways in which it departs from the book. But the main story is all there, and you pretty much get the gist of it. Um, I'm just I travel in circles where a lot of English teachers are telling me how much they hate the fact that now they're going to have to now they're going to have to mark papers wrong for including things that are in the movie and not in the book. So there's that. The Aeneid is sort of the founding of Rome. Um, it follows a Trojan who survives the fall of Troy and embarks on finding a new homeland in Italy, eventually founding Rome. Um, then there's the Iliad, which is the prequel, if you will, to the Odyssey. It tells the story of the Trojan War, primarily focuses on Achilles and um, his real anger problems. So I would encourage you to read that one as well. And then Othello is another one that there is a good film adaptation with Kenneth Branagh and Lawrence Fishburne. I would encourage you to watch that one. It is very good and very faithful to the text itself. Um, but this is a play that exposes some of the racism at Shakespeare's time and also is not altogether removed from the conversation today. So I would encourage you to take a look at and familiarize yourself with that. Of course, if you're already familiar with all those, good on you. You have met the cultural touchstone desires, right? All right. Moving right along. None of those texts are known to have been written by soldiers or veterans. The Greeks may have been, but there isn't a record of those gentlemen having drawn a sword in malice against their fellow man. Nor is Shakespeare known for having gone to war. I would encourage you to note that as you're going along, that this isn't necessarily the voice of veterans, but rather a voice that tells about veterans. So there's that part. In your objectives, here's the things that I would like you to take away from class. I want you to submit competitive manuscripts to academic journals within the veteran studies field. So that is the primary goal of the class, is for you to be able to engage in the academic conversation after this class is over. Now, it is actually a little bit easier to get published in veteran studies than you might imagine. So I would encourage you to take a look at just what your goals are for your careers. But there's no reason that you can't walk away from this class with a publishable paper or the template that could lead you to a publishable paper. Um, you're also going to be evaluating your own and your peers' writing using the course instruction and texts. You're going to provide detailed and constructive feedback on those short written tasks. So each week there's a short paper that is due, and it is due the next week, usually on that next Tuesday. Um, and those papers are meant to keep you writing and to keep you working toward that goal. But you can get feedback on your writing based on those papers. I want you to be able to analyze and respond in writing to veterans' creative works, articulating their military service, homecoming, civilian life, values, and aspirations. So part of that is learning, okay, what is my context here? What do I see in this? And then what can I glean from this after I know the context of the artist or the author? That's really what I want you to drive at is really a fundamental understanding of how veterans tend to represent themselves in these works and how to discover the best way to interpret what they're giving you. Okay, I want you to be able to identify and analyze how veterans influence society through political and social activism, including participation in veteran organizations and direct actions. So, veterans are activists within our society. There, a lot of them are leaders in our society. A lot of our senators and Congress people are veterans, and it's important for us to realize that they are shaping society in some ways, and that they are active in shaping policy as we go forward, for good or for evil, right? But veterans have a voice in the direction of our country, and we've given them that in some ways, partially because of their activism. Um, Fifth, I want you to demonstrate understanding of how diverse communities of veterans used military experience for upward social mobility and civil rights, examining experiences through lenses of race, class, gender, sexuality, and citizenship or national origins. So military members come to the military from all sorts of different places, all sorts of different contexts in life. They're not a unified monolith. So I want you to consider how all of these things lead to um, their success or failure at military service and what they do with that at the end. Um, Sixth, I want you to reflect on the meanings and functions of military memorialization. So, what does it mean when we put up a memorial to veterans? What are your traditions and discourses, considering how these activities are experienced and perceived by veterans of different backgrounds? So, a lot of veterans will look at a statue and say, "Well, what good does that do me?" Right? Um, whose mouth does that feed? Uh, what uh, evil am I uh, writing by erecting a statue to myself? And so that's one that there's an interesting debate on how to honor veterans publicly. And then lastly, compare and contrast veteran and non-veteran perceptions of military identities and experiences through media and popular culture texts. So we have a variety of texts. Um, the PDF that I have assembled is composed primarily of veteran narratives, so veterans writing about themselves. The two books, well written about veterans, the Younger book and the Higgins book, well written about veterans, are not by veterans. Um, they are by people who are very veteran adjacent, but not by veterans. Which actually, if you are a non-veteran and you're planning to work with veterans, is a good thing for you to be exposed to because you need not be a veteran to help a veteran. So those are my learning objectives for you. If you do have questions about any of those, or if any of them seem too large, feel free to reach out by email or through the class portal, and we can discuss as needed. All right. How will you be graded? Your reading reflections, that's a 100-word weekly reading reflection post on the reading content. That will be 11.7% of your grade for a total of 80 points. Um, so those are just real brief question and answer. I'm going to pose a question. I want you to reflect on it and also talk briefly about your peers' reflections as well. Short papers, that's going to be roughly 29.5% of your grade. That is composed of a weekly short paper for a total of 200 points. Those short papers generally are short, as they say, and they're on a variety of topics, generally associated with the primary topic of the reading and videos for that week. Discussions, these are 14.7% of your grade. There are weekly discussion posts. I want to encourage you to engage in discussion even beyond the point of fulfilling the assignment for that week. And then lastly is the book review. You're going to review one of the three required texts, either Younger, Higgins, or the Soldier PDF with the soldier narratives in it. So I encourage you to develop a favorite and then work toward creating that book review because it is 44% of your grade. I want you to be able to submit to a book review, academic book review in the veteran studies field because I want you to be able to submit to the journal that I'm an editor of. And if you can do that, then maybe you get a first publication out of being in my class. So, or a third, or a fifth, or a 10th, or a 80th. So those are how you're going to be graded. All right. For week one, this is the comprehensive course schedule. I want to show you how to read this, and then we'll go into a discussion of week one in a little bit more depth. So the week one course schedule, we've got What is a Veteran's Voice? That goes from August 3rd to August 7th. You're going to be reading the preface and note on methodology in the Higgins book. You're going to be reading the introduction in the Younger book. And then in the PDF packet, I want you to view pages 1 through 6. The videos for this, there's the Warrior Words rationale. Warrior Words is a project that I ran that I think would be very helpful for you to learn about some of the work that goes on around veterans writing projects. You have Keith's story, which is a product of that Warrior Words workshop that we did. And then there's Nebraska Warriors Writers book or video that covers some of what the Nebraska Warrior Writers Project does. Warrior Writers is an organization that gets veterans together in groups, and they all help each other write, and it's for various different reasons. Some of them publish, some of them do not. All of them seem to benefit from the community that they establish in those programs. And for each week, I give you a purpose. The purpose for this first week is to establish how veterans speak, write, and remember. There is a writing assignment, voice or narrative analysis, 2 to 3 pages. For that, you're going to choose any text or video from this week and analyze how the veteran constructs their voice or narrative. Consider elements such as tone, imagery, pacing, silence, or perspective, and explain how these choices shape your understanding of the veteran's experience. If you're pulling from Higgins or Younger, there are some veterans that speak in there, probably not as much in this week, but make sure that you're pulling from actual veteran speech when you're doing this assignment. For your discussion post this week, you're going to talk about where you've encountered veteran voices. Before this class, whether in books or films, family stories, news, social media, video games, and who is telling the story? How did the storyteller shape your perception of the characters in that story? And I want you to respond to at least 2 classmates on that. The lecture video this week is going to be on Introduction to Veteran Narratives, Voice and Representation. I'll do that at the end of this video today. All right. So Moving on, the rest of the comprehensive section gives you a rundown of what is due each week. If you do have questions, please reach out, and we will talk about how to do those things. Your weekly writing and discussion. Each week, you are going to complete one writing assignment, one discussion post, and watch a short lecture video that ties together the readings, videos, and themes. This is a writing intensive class, of course, so consistent engagement with these assignments is essential for your success. All your written work should follow standard academic formatting unless otherwise noted. It should be double spaced, 12-point font, clear paragraphing. Page counts can be approximate. Quality matters more than length. And lastly, with equity and inclusion, if you require any accommodations in order to complete the course effectively, please reach out to me via course message, or we can make arrangements for your needs. I'm a safe instructor to speak with about your disability, gender, sexuality, marginalized status of any kind, and I will not judge you. You can expect respect and enthusiasm from me as we go on this journey together. And I want to know everyone has an oar of the right size before the wind dies, right? So please contact me early and often with any specific needs you have, or just to say hello. I am a pretty reasonable guy when it comes to saying hello. All right. So I want to give you just a sneak peek here. Let me switch gears here. So we're going to switch into the lecture video for this week, which is an introduction to veteran narratives, voice, and representation. So close that out, bring up something else. Okay. More thing here. And let's try this thing. I'm gonna grab that real quick. I know you're just on the edge of your seat, right? If you've gotten this far, you can leave me a comment if you want. That'll let me know that you've made it this far and that you didn't skip through the most boring part, which is me trying to locate things. All right. I'm going to share with you a bit from my dissertation because I think it's important for you to understand where I'm coming from first. So let me share my screen here. On September 11th, I was prepared to attend classes at the Evergreen State College. I'd enrolled in an established financial aid and would be pursuing a degree in secondary education. I was going to be a high school teacher in English. I was 18 years old and ready to take on the world. That morning, my life would change forever as I watched the attacks on New York and elsewhere unfold on the news. I never went to class that day. I never attended Evergreen State College. Instead, on September 18th, 2001, I walked into my Army recruiter's office near the Fuller's Market in Centralia, Washington, and took the oath of enlistment. And from that time until March 17th of 2005, I did everything the Army told me to do. When they told me to jump, I didn't ask how high. I jumped as high and as long as I could. I let it soak in. I became what they wanted me to be, a faster, stronger, more violent version of myself. I was high speed, low drag, airborne all the way. I went places and did things I never thought I could. I performed physical feats I never imagined. I was fundamentally changed. In the aftermath of my service, my marriage fell apart. I had trouble finding good work. I was behind. I became homeless. And for a period of 3 to 4 years, I felt totally lost. It wasn't until I made the decision to move to Minnesota and return to school that I really began to regain some of my feeling of community, some sense of belonging in college. The military was something I did, it wasn't who I was. Fast forward to the day, for today, as in 6 years ago, I am on the cusp of completing the great capstone to my formal education, and the feelings I have are utterly indescribable. I should not be here. So many of my sisters and brothers in arms are not here. It is with them in mind that I dedicate my academic efforts going forward to improve the lives of those who transition out of the military and attempting to build them bridges back to their communities. I want to read you one other small section, um, and that is this right here. What is military dialect and how is it created? In Tom Wolfe's book, The Right Stuff, the author describes a kind of speech specific to the World War II era Army. He writes, in the Army, one was continually around people who spoke Army Creole, a language in which there are about 10 nouns, 5 verbs, and one adjective or participle or whatever it was called. Wolfe's account of the World War II pilots who eventually made up the astronauts of the Apollo missions benefits from his time as a journalist. At several points in the work, he makes keen observations about veterans, including the mention of the language difference between the Army and civilians. His brief description of Army Creole points out not just a lexical difference accounting for the 10 nouns, etc., but also a level of stoicism and nonverbal behavior that denotes a highly dense, coded language, one in which few words are necessary because they carry a heavy weight. One example of this you might be familiar with is the word "ua," and its variations for different branches of service, "ura" and "uya." Taken by themselves, these terms stand in for many forms of acknowledgement between troops, sometimes explained as anything but no. They stand for excitement or understanding. They're sometimes used sarcastically to denote a soldier is overexcited. These terms began as the acronym HUA, heard, understood, and agreed, or acknowledged. But as time went on, the acronym was lost and the terms took on new meanings. Without Wolf's narrative and others like it, however, the general population has no translator for the compelling stories that veterans tell. A myriad of difficulties is introduced by this lack of simple understanding. The part on the part of most civilians of the way that veterans speak essentially when relating personal narratives about experiences and more. As such, the purpose of this research is to discover features of veteran lexicon, in particular the lexicon used in telling stories of military service, in order to lay the foundation for an interrogation of best practices for understanding and communicating veteran narratives. All right, that's all I'm going to expose you to with the dissertation. So essentially, what I'm talking about there is the different way of speaking that some veterans have. So um, when I'm trying to tell you a story and I'm a veteran, often I'll use the terms that I associate with the things that were happening when I was doing that, when I was living that, right? And for a lot of us, this is very common, right? We'll go to Disneyland and we'll talk about all the Disneyland things. And um, we'll go to the Washington Monument and we'll talk about all the Washington Monument things. We'll talk about the mall and all these different things. But as we're talking, we're picking up pieces of the dialect of the area, right? Um, when I say the mall, I'm not talking about a big open grass field, right? And I think probably most of you are not doing that. However, in the context of being in Washington, D.C., you sort of know, oh, the National Mall. I get it. I understand what you're saying, right? But without that context, there is no understanding. And veterans, when they speak about war, they're doing that same thing. They're speaking in context of the war, right? They'll talk about things that are covered in the radio operator's handbook or the AR 670-1 or the dialect that is peculiar to them in training. Um, and everybody who's a veteran will understand it. In fact, in my research, I found that the staying power of that dialect, the way that people understood those terms, was at a very high level, even 60 years after their service. So it sticks. But the question is, how do we help people understand that dialect as we're telling stories, right? And it gets to be difficult because, on one hand, we want people to understand the authenticity of the experience, right? And part of that authenticity is the terms that go along with it, right? Um, but on the other hand, we want to be understood and we need to be understood. And if we're not understood, we feel like we can't maybe ever be understood. Um, and so, as we're building up our resilience, as we're working toward finding those things that uh, make us feel like we're part of the community again, it's important for us to find that happy medium in uh, how we express ourselves and how we express ourselves and feel authentic in that expression. Um, how do we tell our stories to the people that we decide are worthy to hear them? Um, how do we make our voices heard? How do we receive representation that accounts for the knowledge that we have if we can't speak to the people that need to make those decisions? Um, and so, as you're going through these different sources that we're looking at this week, I want you to take a look specifically about what the veteran or the artist is doing in order to communicate the particular plight or the particular situation of each subject or each veteran. So I want to focus for now for a second on this PDF packet. So this is our PDF packet, and you'll see this gentleman peeking out the front. Now, I would love for you to tell me what it is you think of this person before you read the caption down there. But obviously, I can't hear you. So, uh, but to me, looking at him, um, it almost looks modern. Like it looks like what you would see from some of the Vietnam veterans coming back, where they had this sort of OD green jacket that was patched up, and they had the long beards, and they're unkempt, and yet, if you look in their eyes, there's something there. Uh, Sadness, haggard quality, something that says, first off, don't mess with me. Second, um, help me in a way. Um, he's carrying this shillelagh, and you can see that this is from 1829. It was painted by John Nagel, who is a civilian. That is something that you'll see in these PDF things. I'll label whether the artist was a civilian or not, and whether the subject was a veteran. Um, and it's the portrait of a winter homeless veteran of the Revolutionary War. So if we project our uh, onto this image our understanding of veterans of the Revolutionary War, right? You can start to see it. You can peel away the layers of the beard. You can give him the bright blue Continental Army coat. You can replace the shillelagh with a musket. You can feel him holding a cap underneath his breastbone here, and it really it's almost like there's somebody underneath there, especially the jawline here. Most of the Revolutionary War soldiers, I imagine, clean shaven. I don't know if that's an accurate imagination, but it is my imagination. Um, And you can almost see through his beard to him being clean shaven. And the whiteness that comes onto his eyebrows, it seems like only the whiteness is what's overgrown. Um, and this was 1829, so we're talking about 50 years ish later. Um, and so this fellow would have been quite young when fighting in the Revolution. Uh, and it speaks to me. There's a reason I put it as the cover, right? It speaks to me in a really visceral way. Um, and I don't know, he just seems to me quite noble, right? Now, this is a civilian um, portraying a veteran, so it's not a veteran's voice. Um, but what we're seeing in the artist's rendition is the impact that this veteran had on the artist. And that impact is the veteran's voice. Because you don't just paint somebody. It took a long time to paint, even in the 1820s, right? You don't just paint somebody if you're not interested in their story, right? So you can imagine the kind of stories that this fellow would tell. Um, what was he offered? Is he being exploited? Um, it's just a really interesting thing to sit with. Did the veteran want to be remembered in this way, or would he rather you remember him in his uniform? Does he have any family? We don't know, right? We would hope that if he had family, they would be taking better care of him and he wouldn't be homeless, but you never know. So these are all things that you can take in as you're going through this packet. This one is a poem that I wrote, um, and let's see, I was at this point probably uh, 2016-ish, so about 10 years ago, and that would have been about 11 years removed from my service in the Army. And I wrote this as a kind of a letter to my son, hence letter to Cole. It is published in Issued Stories of Service, issue 2. I encourage you to take a look at that if you can. There are lots of other interesting poems besides mine there. It says, Dear Cole, don't join the army. My son, you are too good to kill, kill, kill without mercy. You are too handsome to beat your face. You see too clearly to follow blindly. You ask too many questions to stop asking fucking questions. Dear Cole, do what makes you breathe, inspire, acquire a fire that makes you shine. Find a talent and use it, only choose it for yourself. Let no one else tell you to put your dreams on the shelf. Dear Cole, war is not glory, it's a gory mess of regrets, tempestuous times of flying from one place to another and not looking for a lover, but always a fight. It's not right, son, to visit the whole world, but only with a gun, son. Dear Cole, don't be cold-hearted. Don't go to places uncharted and steal their joy. Be a good boy now. Do as I say, not as I did. And maybe there will be hope for your kids to grow up with a father, not just a ghost in a flesh suit, unused cannon fodder. So, in that poem, I'm serving two functions. I do signal to other veterans that I am legitimate, right? I use some phrasing, kill, kill, kill without mercy. That's part of the bayonet training program. Beat your face. That's what we say when we're doing push-ups sometimes. Uh, it's a poem that reads like somebody who's experienced things. At the same time, it's serving the function of warning my son against perceiving my service as anything but a waste of time, um, as a noble thing at all. Uh, it's at a time when I wasn't feeling particularly noble about my service. And I think it's an important stage for a lot of veterans to go through is feeling that questioning, that um, that point at which they feel um, a wonder as to whether or not they did the right thing by joining. Um, so as you go through these texts, and there are a lot, some of them are quite impactful. Others, uh, maybe you need to dig a little deeper for the meaning. But I think that if you let them speak to you in a way, will speak to you as the veterans intended. Um, and as we go through the course, I think that perhaps we'll learn to appreciate them in different ways. Um, there is a last thought that I want to leave you with as you're interacting with veteran voices throughout the course. And that is that there are ways that you are programmed to revere veterans in almost every country. It's not exclusive to the US, but especially here in the US, we are taught to um, revere veterans and to place them on a pedestal up here, up above us. And that we can never thank them enough for their service, and that they are perhaps just untouchable in the pantheon of our American heroes. Um, but I want to put into your mind just the question of whether or not that makes them um, easy to understand. Does that make that does it make it more difficult to understand their stories? As if I just say, well, you're so high up there, I can't understand everything that you went through. I could have never. But if you don't imagine what it was like to go through that, it feels like almost a shortcut to not really having to, right? Um, and if we put veterans in that position, my contention is they feel like nobody can ever understand them because they start to believe that about themselves. Uh, and it's not necessarily a place of feeling like they are being honored, but rather that they are separate, that there is a herd or a flock on the inside that they are protecting, and they are the sheepdogs on the outside, but that they can't ever be a sheep, especially not having seen the wolves. So, as you're taking in these veteran narratives, think about how you are placing these authors on a plinth, if you are, um, and think about the different ways in which you could receive this and uh, how you could express gratitude if that's what you feel like doing, or how you could respectfully disagree with what they're doing. That is certainly a reasonable reaction in a lot of ways. Um, so I think that's where we'll end. If you do have questions, feel free to reach out. Again, I'm available anytime. Do stay on top of your assignments. It is crucial that you do that because it really helps to ensure that everything gets done. And really, that's the easiest way to lose points in this course is to just not do the assignments. If you're doing things and you're trying hard, the results that you want will follow. So, thank you. Thank you all for coming with me on this journey. I really appreciate you signing up for my class, and I hope that we all can learn together how to better understand each other. Thank you again for coming.